Hey, this is Thomas FreeMe. I'm live with Dustin. We're here at Tampa Joe's. We're going to talk about mental health today. We're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to be building and trying to progress and trying to unite America for one common cause. Um, I am local here, and Tampa Joe's is one of my favorite restaurants. I do come here for the barbecue nacho. That's the only thing I come here for. And I do have the manager here, so we're going to just talk to him for a minute, let him explain where he's at and the aura of the place. So,
All right, nice to meet you. I'm JJ. I'm the manager at Tampa Joe's. We're at 9316 Anderson Road here in Tampa. And come on down anytime you want. We got good food. Got some pasta. Our wings are awesome. I know he loves the barbecue nachos, but can't give up on those wings. I'm telling you, they're awesome. Burgers are great. Today's $6 burgers. So if you want to come by today, get a burger, cheap burger. Sounds like a plan to me.
awesome. How long have you guys been here?
We are going on 8 years, I believe, now.
And I have to ask, do you guys hire felons?
We do hire friendlies. Actually, right now, like I said, we'll hire anybody right now. It's a tough time for the service industry, but we do hire friendlies, yes.
Okay, JJ, I'll let you get back to your work. Thank you so much. Yep.
Thank you guys for having it here.
So I'll pass the mic over to Mr. Sean Dustin here and let him get a couple words in. Actually, I'll take that back. He's still setting up. So the premise of the show today, like I said, we're going to be talking about mental health, what we can do to come together. Sean actually came out here for another show, Mr. Popular, and we've been online for about I don't know, maybe about a year now, going back and forth and just building together. And this is the first time that we're actually meeting in person and having a real conversation, human to human. So that's always a good thing. So without further ado, let him get into the spot right here. And there he is. Bam. In your face, Mr. Sean Dustin.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, I just wanted to come out here and hook up with my boy Thomas. We've been, like you said, going back and forth through couple of different things that we've been doing, and as far as reentry goes, and helping formerly incarcerated people, returning citizens, return back into the society, and all of that. And trying to catch my breath here. I'm running on a tight schedule. I got to leave here in about. No, I'm not popular. I was able to string a bunch of things together and make this a business, like a working trip versus a pleasure trip. So I haven't been to the beach. I haven't done anything. So let's get started. We'll talk a little bit about mental health, because I think that's a really, really important subject and an important topic as it relates to our population of formerly incarcerated and folks that, are struggling, whatever got them to prison. Prison itself, I'm not going to say that it doesn't work. For most people, it doesn't work. There are the few that are the exceptions to the rule that actually get in there and do good and change their behaviors and change their lives and get out and become, upstanding citizens. But, there is a fairly large population that comes out that didn't get a chance to do that when they were in there. Programs weren't available to them. They were on waiting lists that they couldn't get on. And by the time they went home, nothing changed. And when nothing changes, right?
Well, that's exactly it. And I mean, from my experience, right, it's, prison is designed to break you, from my experience, and it takes it, depending on sometimes it takes somebody just one trip and a weekend stay. Sometimes it takes somebody 3 trips and 15 years, for that person to finally understand. But eventually a person's going to understand that eventually we have to stop broadcasting blame and start taking ownership of our own actions and our own thoughts. So it's just, when does that occur? And the thing of it is that does not happen in prison. That's up to the individual itself. And sometimes that doesn't even occur. Sometimes a person will just be stuck in a state. So it's what, how do we change? We have to change the structure of what prison is. We have to change the structure of what prison is. It has to change from penal to educational. You know, this has to be a school of some sort versus a prison of some sort. Again, I say we have to follow the Norway's model. If we really truly want to better our people, why not follow the number one model in the world?
Actually, I actually saw a video, and I don't know if it was you that sent it to me, but it was the guy in Norway, and they followed him, and he was a murderer and did some other things. But the big problem that some of the people were having on the pushback with that is that, like, oh well, he's allowed to do all of these things, and it didn't seem like the consequence was very stiff, right? I can understand where they're coming from with that, but I mean, there's got to be a middle ground. So if that's too lenient, and where we're at right now is too extreme, and the punitive, you know what I mean? I mean, I've got 10 conversations of folks that are on ghost dope conspiracies out of the Northern District of Texas, and I think the minimum amount of time that these 10 individuals had was 15 years for drugs. I mean, people murder people and don't have to usually do, 15, 20, 30 years, but they're handing out exorbitant amounts of time for a victimless crime. And I know that they say that the victim is the community. But I mean, people are going to do what they're going to do regardless, right? Most people have insurance. I can't see when I'm like trying to weigh the scales, it just doesn't weigh out to me. And you're right. And the person that I think that said it the best is David Morgenstern. We have to intrude into the system as formerly incarcerated people that understand what was missing when we were there, what was missing when we got out, what was missing when we re-entered. We have to be the ones to pick up the ball, basically. And not only in that aspect, but we have to pick up the ball as far as like having people like myself or other folks that are formerly incarcerated and have changed their lives around and are doing great things, like Chad Marks, yourself, Holly Houghton. All of these folks are exemplary models of behavioral change and what life can be like if you do the right things and you take ownership and responsibility for your own actions, and you look to yourself first before you start blaming everybody else for your problems, because all my problems came from me. Maybe I can blame a little bit of my upbringing, but most of it was me. Those behaviors were learned behaviors over patterns of being lazy and wanting to get around doing things. Where I was going with that, and I said all that to say this: we also need to intrude into the local politics and stop paying attention to the national stuff, because the national stuff is just a distraction, right? And if we start intruding into that system, people will start paying attention. If we start getting elected to our local city councils or stuff like that, where we can actually affect change, maybe in our state Congress, I think that we have a shot. But it's not going to be easy, and folks are not going to want us to be there.
No, I mean those are really, really a lot of great points. And one thing that I really want to go back to is I don't want to minimize drug dealing, and I don't want to minimize drugs, because you as an addict, right, of what you had to go through to get to where you're at today is because of drugs, and somebody was pushing them to you, right? You have to speak to that. But I know, okay, so let me say this. I know drugs is a dependency, right? And people will go out, as you say, people are going to do what they want to do and they're going to go find them. And I'm not advocating for people not to do drugs, because drugs can do miraculous things for people, right? When they're done responsibly in an adult fashion, right? What they're meant to do. But you have individuals out there, and I've been part of that, and I've seen it myself, where they push people and they get people addicted because people have money or they came into a little bit of money. So I say that to say that in a way, a drug dealer can be just as bad as a murderer, right? And because you're destroying people's lives, and sometimes people don't even get over this. You know, DMX is a recent example of somebody that struggles with this lifelong, and how DMX got addicted was, again, he was 14 or 15 years old, and somebody rolled a coolie, put some dope in the joint, and he's been addicted to it since. So I don't want to minimize the actions of drug dealers. I don't feel that they deserve the time that they get, right? But for the mothers and the fathers and stuff out there, and I know that's not what Sean was doing at all. It's just I want to pay you guys respect because I do understand that struggle. I've never been an addict myself, but I've been on the other side. And these are ghosts that I have to live with because I know that I've been part of tearing people's lives down. So what I don't like, right, is the disparities. And what I mean by disparity is when I went in and I had a 210-month sentence, right? I thought that the most unfair thing happened to me, right? I thought that I was railroaded and all of this until I started talking to individuals. And 99% of them were black individuals that would have the same charge as me and have double my time. The same charge, right? Same classification, same level, because the feds goes by a level. So you have a low end and then you have a high end. I got the low end, of course. All of them got the high end, which is sometimes 5-10 years, or they get enhanced to go into another level, such and so. So those are the things that bothered me. It hurt me to the core, and it changed my perspective on my time. Of course, I quit complaining about my time. But it was that is what bothers me more than anything is just the unjust. If we're going to have a sentence for something, it has to be universal across the board. You know, it can't be, well, this guy gets 10 years, but this guy gets 25 years for the same charge, same background, all of that.
All right, two things there. One is there's a flip side of the coin with the victim. I mean, I wasn't trying to make light of it, but I mean, I was on both sides. So I was selling drugs too, but I was doing it to support a habit, also to part of the enterprise that I was running out there, doing what I was doing, and that was a tool. But when I stopped doing that in 2010, like maybe a year later, I got an injury and got prescribed opiates, painkillers, even though they knew I had a drug problem. And this is Kaiser Permanente in California. It was in my file that I was a drug addict, and they still prescribed me opiates and painkillers, the same thing. And their way around that is they made me sign a waiver saying that I wouldn't sue them for getting addicted to them. And for me, I was still in my addiction, and I was like, oh, painkillers, yeah, sure, give them to me, I'll sign it. I didn't care. And that ended up in a 7-year addiction after I'd already kicked meth. So, I mean, where's the consequences for that? You know what I mean? So, I mean, if you're going to look, I mean, and that goes into a whole nother direction with, politicians and legislation and, money from big pharma, elections, re-elections, all that stuff. I mean, it all plays a part in it. Now, the second, what was the last point that you made? Oh, the time discrepancy. That's systemic. That's what we look at as a systemic problem, and it's not only in the justice system, it's in the financial sector. I mean, you look at 2008 and the financial crisis. What did they do, and where did they hit the hardest when they were going to give these folks door to door knocking on, trying to get home improvement loans and line of credits? And So they would go into neighborhoods that usually homes were paid off, but they were black neighborhoods, and things were falling apart, stuff was dilapidated, and they would go in there and they would say, "Hey, we can do all of this stuff for you. We can fix this up, fix this, give you the money to do that." And they trap them into these loans that, I mean, they have no idea what they're signing. And you can watch The Con, which is thecon.tv, and it's about the 2008 financial crisis. And I screened this thing, and it's an amazing true crime documentary series. And you can watch the first episode for free. And I guarantee you're going to want to watch the other four. It's only $10. It's worth the rental. But I mean, it tells the whole story of this. So the systemic racism is a real thing. I live in California, so I remember I've said a couple of times that I don't really experience overt racism there. But somebody corrected me when I said, I don't think that there's covert or that there's overt racism anymore, and that doesn't really hardly exist. And they said, well, you haven't been to the South because it still exists. And so that's true. I have not been to the South. I have no idea about that. I'm just speaking in my area. It's not prevalent. Now, there's a lot of covert racism. I guarantee you that. When people get out of earshot of somebody, I've experienced people saying things, but the systemic thing is something that really needs to change. And as long as we have career politicians and, lobbyists and all that stuff, it's not going to change.
Well, no, because they don't want it to change. But how much? So how much of that was race versus class? See, because I was in there, and I remember going through that, and I just remember people telling me how lucky I was to be inside, right? That I think a gallon of milk was like $5 or $6 or $7 or something crazy. Gas was crazy, and people were telling me, it's a good thing that you're in there, so. But what you described to me, I was unaware of. I knew nothing about that. But how much of that was class versus race?
I think it was class, because they, just like the judicial system and all of that, it targets poor people. So it's the meek, the weak, and the ignorant. Right? Not ignorant because you're stupid, ignorant because you don't know the law. You don't know how to protect yourself. You don't know the rules. You don't know certain things. The financial sector, same thing. And, they made a really good point when I was watching this, is that most folks, or at least most black folks, well, no, I'm not going to say that, but most folks in general, that it goes from black to white to Mexican, if you get into the impoverished class, most of them don't understand the fine print.
Right.
And anytime that you need a third party to explain that fine print to you, you're going to get taken advantage of. And so that was the huge part of that. You get taken advantage in the financial system, you get taken advantage in the judicial system, and they literally pick on the people that can't afford to fight or to hire people to fight for them. Because when you go to jail, I mean, if I didn't have my mom, I couldn't have afforded to hire a lawyer.
That's a good point. You make a good point. So let me ask you this here. Let me ask. So, do you think that that's why there's like this current administration is so lax on immigration, because they want as many immigrants in here as possible for that reason that you gave? So because they're easily manipulated, like when it comes to the fine print.
No, it's when it comes to the voting. So if the Democrats allow all of this mass influx of immigrants into the country, what are they going to vote? Most likely.
Of course.
So, I mean, it kind of serves two different things. First of all, you let them all in, you get their votes, and then you pick them off and throw them in jail and send them back or do whatever you can. And it's just a vicious cycle, man. I mean, everything. I know you said that you didn't agree with some of the stuff that everything's a rich man's trick, but I mean, at the base of everything that we do, if you look at it, it's always inverted. What we think is one thing is really something completely different.
Well, there's no question.
You know what I mean? And by the time we figure out what the rules to the game are, they change the game. And now we're trying to figure out a whole new set of rules, and we think that we're getting. It's like, fuck, man, why can't I ever get past this point? You know, and you could say, well, maybe you're not working hard enough. Well, don't be so goddamn lazy. You know, all the things that always get thrown up. You know, and it's just that comes usually, in my opinion, from the people that are still plugged into mainstream media. Like even in the 2008 financial crisis, what were they blasting on TV constantly? Boom, boom, boom. You see these people on Wall Street saying, well, if the people didn't take out mortgages that they couldn't pay for.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I remember that.
But you have a person who's telling you that you can do this,
right,
that you can afford it. And so mainstream media
yep,
just does this to the population. It's 50% of them follow that, and I think 50% are like myself, who are alternative media, have unplugged completely and is like, screw that.
Well, that's it. I don't even turn my TV on. I really don't. I hardly ever turn my TV on unless it's maybe to play my PlayStation every once in a while, or maybe to watch some documentaries or something like that on YouTube or whatever. But other than that, movies don't interest me anymore because it's garbage, and you can start to see the meandering. You can you can see the just the placation and the manipulation, and even in movies, and it's bad. And this is what scares me, is exactly what you say. Is these distractions. So it comes to the point now when I see things like, okay, let's take UFOs, right? Now there's all these UFOs being released in the public, right? Now, do I believe them? I do. I believe that, as I say, just I believe that we are where we are, and I've said this for the longest, is because if you look at advancement from 1900 to 1947, we barely got anywhere. And then after 1947, which was the Roswell crash, we're flying jets 2 years later, and then we just skyrocket, So, but what I'm saying is, now when I see these things being released and it's everywhere now, the first thing I think is, what are they trying to distract me from? You know what I mean? What are they really trying to bring my attention to this UFO stuff now, which they're trying to slip under night? But so to wrap, what do we do about immigration? What do we do about the drug problem that we know the pharmaceuticals are undercover pushing,
That's a huge problem, and it's not an easy one to even give you an answer to. Because it's so big. Like I said, I think the first thing is that start paying attention to what's happening in your own backyard. And I want to go back to a point before you went to the UFOs, and it was so think about the '94 crime bill. Think about the privatization of prisons, and think about you have the privatization of prisons, the '94 crime bill, and then there was another thing. Oh, and the infiltration of crack cocaine into the inner cities, right? All of those coincided each other. But the one thing that really helped to solidify it was, when did cops start coming out? Bat boys, yeah. What you gonna do, right? And so cops made it really big. It was super impactful, right? But what was the main thing that they showed on cops? They showed a lot of, when you would look at it, it looked like stupid criminals, right? Just dumbasses. They did that on purpose, because now the public is thinking, well, we don't care if they throw them in jail. They're just a bunch of dumbasses anyways.
They're stupid people that'll do stupid things. We need to lock them up.
Yep. And so that happened. And then lockup came behind that, showing you how animal these people are and what they do to each other inside. So now it's like when we're out here crying, hey man, things are bad, things are this, things are that. If you've been watching Lockup, you're thinking to yourself, well, shit, they fucking belong there, right? Oh yeah, there's his nachos. I got a Cuban sandwich waiting for me in the car.
He's never had Cuban before, and I got him a real Cuban sandwich.
So yeah, the problem is huge, and like I said, I think that when a lot of people go, well, the system is broken. None of these systems are broken. They're all working the way that they're supposed to be working. It's actually ingenious how they've manufactured all the things that they have, with the help of mainstream media, with the help of social media, which only allows certain things to be boosted and buries everything else. So the perception stays what they need it to be. And, you can say, oh, well, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, most conspiracy theories right now are proving to be pretty kind of true.
Let me tell you something about that. If it wasn't for conspiracy theorists, we'd be a socialist country. We'd be a communist country, because the conspiracy theorists, no matter how crazy they sound, they make people think. They give you an opposite of what you're constantly hearing. So without that, we would all be lost in what the news tells us, because it's these people that makes us question the news. So big shouts to the conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And, you should, like, so I'm going to tell you a little story here about what happened to me once I unplugged from mainstream media. Every time, like, I would always be kind of an asshole or feel, because I would watch the news all the time. That'd be the first thing I did when I woke up, and it'd be, the thing I did in the afternoon, and I would, watch the local stations. I'd go to Fox, I'd go to CNN, I'd watch a bunch of different stuff. And I was always kind of like in a bad mood or on edge, right? And almost kind of like when you're in prison, there's that heightened awareness of anxiety. You know what I mean? That's something that any moment is going to pop off. And once I disconnected from that, from the mainstream, every time it comes on now, I'm just like, shit, turn it off, man, turn it off. I'm telling you. And because it's just constantly, it's they're flashing you. So how you flash your hard drive, like your what do they call that? They call it flashing it in your computer, the chips or the motherboard or whatever it is, your BIOS, your flash BIOS. They're doing the same thing to you in the news. They're flashing you constantly, and boom, boom, boom. And that is driving it into your subconscious to where now that's what you're thinking, even though that you're not thinking it, you are.
No, I mean, that's exactly it. And I say that on my podcast, and that is my message, that we have to turn this crap off. What you say has to be everybody's awareness. From the moment we wake up, what's the first thing that we usually do? Turn on the news, check the weather, things of that nature. We're already being distracted the moment we wake up, and we're staying under distraction, because we get in the car, we turn on the radio, we get to work. Work consumes our whole day. It probably consumes most of our evening, because we have work hangover when we get home. Then we have the kids. Then we sit down, we watch a show, we go to bed. We are distracted from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, until we stop that distraction. Now, like you said, you stop as much of that distraction as you could, and now you see it. Now, when it comes, you're like, oh my God, I know what that is. Stay away from me, and that's what we have to do. We have to, it's almost like the Twilight Zone. Remember, they turn on the TV and people would just become zombies. This is what we are. And they feed us whatever they want to feed us.
So we're going to have to wrap this up. It's 1:00 here. I got a 2:30 on the Concrete podcast a little bit today. No, I'm not popular. I just, for once in my life, I became efficient and organized. So anyways, like, we're here at Tampa Joe's. It's great to hang out with you, Thomas, and get a chance to meet you. I didn't realize this cat was so tall, man. I thought I was tall. He's way taller than me. Yeah, you look taller than me. Yeah. But anyways, check out Thomas's podcast. It's called FreeMe, and he deals with. Well, you tell me.
Yeah, FreeMe podcast. I don't know why they do it, but it's one word, so it's a lot easier to find when you just type FreeMe, one word. But deal with mental health. Deal with the reasons why we continue to do the things that we do on a daily basis. Why do we continue to go to prison? Actually, we didn't even tell the people. Yeah, tune in tonight live. We're doing live YouTube tonight at 8 o'clock. Me, Sean Dustin, and Alex Glass. We're going to do a show, and we're just going to talk about emotions that men go through. Well, maybe 45 minutes or an hour. Some of the things that we go through on a daily basis and how we handle them. So that's what I really essentially deal with. You can check me out, FreeMe Podcast, www.cominghomecoalition is my boots on the ground foundation here in Tampa. And that's it. I'm on all podcasts. So I appreciate the time. I love meeting you. It's great that we build cross country, Florida to California.
Amazing. And this is what podcasting is all about. Podcasting is at the core is about connecting with people outside of yourself and providing more value to your audience than you are taking away from it. And I love it. It's changed my life, and it's opened up through helping other people has opened up so many opportunities for me that I couldn't even have dreamed to think were possible before I started this journey. So the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, if you don't know, that's where you can find me. You can anywhere that I'm at, all my social medias you can find on my link tree, which is linktr.ee/Nowhere to Go But Up. And we'll see you tonight.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
You've been listening to the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. Sean is a single dad, a union blue-collar guy, and he spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. When he was released from prison in 2006, all he had was the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and some paperwork. Since then, he's turned his life around and shares the struggles and successes on this podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you were moved. To connect to the show, book a guest spot. For merch, Patreon, PayPal, and social media links, go to linktr.ee/Nowhere to Go But Up. On Instagram at Nowhere to Go But Up Now. On Twitter at But Up Now. On the YouTube channel at Nowhere to Go But Up Podcast. See you next time.